Okay, everybody. I'm live streaming. I'm not sure how many of us are here. Okay, and away we go. We'll get. I'll share the screen here, and you should be able to see, hopefully, what we've got going on. And let's see how many I've got here with this. I'll do this new share, and see quite a few of us here. Glad to have you all here. Let me pop this open. I apologize, I'm a few minutes late. Dimitri, Dylan, I'm not sure who 2259 is, and I got a couple of phone numbers. Then David, glad to see you here as well, and Zach as well. Now, I'm going to hide this thumbnail and go away from there. If you would please, you may want to go ahead and mute your sound if you have it on, and then if you have a question, you can always turn it on and ask me. We are of course in week number. Well, let me pop this over to the right class first of all. That's strange. It's been one of those days, hasn't it? Well, it has in the MIS course, not in information technology, so that was strange. Been that kind of a week. All right. And my apologies. Okay. As I said before, we're over here, and we had a few more people join us. Glad to have you here. And we're here in week number 1. Let me open up the shutter and we can see what's going on in this module. And just as a quick overview, this week you've got the Perelson. That exam is over chapters 1 and the intro. And then we've got this tutorial that you're going to upload, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. I have some. I have a link here, some resources about business intelligence. And don't forget, I'm going to add, we're going to go about an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes tonight, and then I'll do some supplemental recordings that'll give us the full 4 hour. And I do appreciate you being here. It's not mandatory. The time that the 2 plenary sessions at the end of the course are the times that I really want people here, and they need to be here. But tonight we start off with kind of an overview of business intelligence and what it's all about. And I have some resources that I would like to take a look at. One of them starts with John Snow and his coverage of, and not his coverage, but his role in the 1854 cholera epidemic that occurred in London. And John Snow was a physician, and we have the first known use of graphic data. And what Snow did was he took a map of London and began to plot houses where the cholera epidemic had broken out, and they began to use that to help identify the source, which was some bad water out of one of the public water fountains that was there in London at the time. Not everyone had indoor plumbing in those days, and so people often would go to a pump to get their water. And then here's also an article from Anscombe who talks, and I talked to some, I think, last week about Anscombe's quartet, and his article from 73, I believe, or 72. Edward Tuft, who's another one of those voices. And if you say, are you focusing on the visual display of data and the use of visual presentation to make a point? Absolutely. And we have these tools and that we can use. And in fact, Anscombe's article and his quartet, the article from I believe the American Statistician, or one of those very, very old line journals, he said basically that we have the ability now to do all these computations, and we need to also develop the ability to take those numbers and the data and put them into a format visually that people understand. Edward Tuft is another one of those who is very much about the visual display of data. Stephen Few's books. He has a number of books he's written on that subject, and that's one of the things we're talking about. Now, also kind of one of the other themes here was this notion of big data and how that computing is becoming more and more ubiquitous, and more computing is really a process whereby chips are embedded in an object of some type, and then data are collected and forwarded to a server in the cloud. And so there's some resources there for you to take a look at. Also, another is, and I'm going to click on this very quickly. I want to make sure I'm going good here. And here is the ArcGIS by Esri. I'll click on it for just a minute. Take you over there and let you see that Esri is a company that does mapping, and they are ArcGIS. And just to show you by example, I'm going to click on the gallery to let you see some of the work that's done. Really, a map is really nothing more than a series of layers, and what we're finding is what we're experiencing is a whole renaissance in the use of maps and the use of overlays in maps to depict a situation or to depict the geographic dispersion. In fact, I sent all of you just a real simplistic little map of your geographic dispersion. That's from a little, I think it was Bats Geo, or it's one of those little zip code map that showed the distribution of everybody out in space here. And you can see there are some really fantastic tools are out there. And again, these are for example, preterm births by county and throughout the United States. The use and probably what you're most familiar with are the maps that you see in the weather. And you're used to seeing weather maps that will show you, the concentration of rainfall. It will show you wind movements. It will show you areas that are covered by a storm. Now they've gone to 3D graphics. So Oklahoma is weather person's paradise, and the ability, and they have those ground spotters who chasing the storms, but also you'll have these incredible graphics that will show you the wind speed, the rotation, and they also are now creating 3D views, so you can literally go above that cloud formation or above that storm and look down into it and get a sense of the dynamics. So it's a very interesting a trend that's occurring, and it's occurring because we have the ability to gather data on a spatial basis, and you'll hear me say it many times probably till you get tired of it. Your automobile, for example, is really a piece of floating. It's really nothing more than software on a chassis with a set of wheels. And so you can see all the maps. And I would encourage you. Esri is the very, very best at what they do. They offer a lot of free training programs for people, and I think you would really truly it would be in your interests to go through. They usually sponsor. They usually will have a MOOC, massively open online course that's free, and then they will often offer free training sessions through their company. And I've taken about 4 or 5 of their courses, and they're just absolutely fantastic. So that's one of the things that I wanted to alert you to, and it was kind of one of the themes in this module is the visual display of data and the use of it, and how we can use that to convey a story, how we can use that to convey some type of information. I have also, here's kind of here's a little interesting map. I'll show you this. This is from many of you probably are familiar with the show, the two television shows, Duck Dynasty and Modern Family, and we'll pop out there and they will give you a picture. Okay, this is from the Upshot, which is published by the New York Times. But the upshot, these are people who work a lot with data, do a lot of polling data and things of that nature. And you could see this is a thermal, and they show you areas where Empire is popular, that television program, and then here's Modern Family. And you can see, of course, the intensity where Duck Dynasty is popular. And again, what this is a map, a thermal map, in which the intensity is the darker is the higher the number of observations for a particular program, set into a type of slideshow, if you will, and it's really just interesting to use it to see. Here are, and then here's another map. I guess you could call it kind of a topographic. This is really a thermal map as well, and this shows you a perspective of the most the shows that are most common in urban areas. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, that will let you filter these. Okay, so we're seeing the combination of database with maps and the ability to do computational work to create some really fascinating kinds of tools that we can use to communicate a point. And here's shows that are common in the rural areas, what people would call the black belt, and a nice article as they talk about that. And so I think it's some interesting stuff that you would want to see. I wanted to also show you, and I'll have some other things I'll show you when I do the supplemental lecture. This is, I think, one of the most fantastic tools that's out there. This is a free tool that's offered by Esri, and this is called Esri Tapestry. And I wanted to just show you what you could do with this. So this is the free version. Now, the commercialized version is extremely expensive, and let me just give you a quick overview. And let me just show you what this thing will do. Now, I'm going to take the zip code where I live, and you could do the same thing for yourself if you wish. And what this will do is this zip code lookup, first of all, will show me the location. Now, here I have the ability to filter, and that is to move out. And literally what these maps are just a series of layers. And as we started the course and we talked about the analytical cube, okay, this literally is where we're moving up and down an analytical cube, that being the spatial distribution of certain attributes. Here are what they would call the psychographic profiles, marketing profiles, and 23% are soccer moms, 23% savvy suburbanites, and then some up-and-coming families, and that's those. Now, they also have some other data. They have data on income, okay, and then income on age, and income on population density. And you can see that as well. And they'll give you some more data about the demographics, and you'll want to run this and take a look at it and see. And this is a free version, but just imagine all of the information that's there in terms of what you can get. And I'll drop that menu down. It gives you a picture of the market profile of the typical of the people who typically live in this zip code. And obviously you could compare zip codes with others. I can flip over here and look at the 73173 zip code. I can go over to 73160. I can focus on in even and go even a little deeper. And this is 73160. Middleburg is what it's called. So this is an interesting resource, and I would encourage you to play with it and take a look at it. And again, now Esri has what makes them such a fantastic resource for businesses is that they can not only display data for you on a visual basis, okay, because Esri is a tool that lets you input data. And as I said, there are some MOOCs, massively open online courses. They also have some training courses that Esri offers directly that you could use. I took a course on location analysis and and we went through a process of locating a store, a retail operation. The fantastic thing about Esri is not only the platform that you can import your own data and use, but also their database that is essentially, they have built an algorithm that allows them to mimic the United States Census on a highly accurate basis every single year. The census is conducted every 10 years, and then there's some statistical abstracts that are developed and run between those 10-year periods. But nobody has come up with what Esri has, and so they are the go-to place if you want to see, for example, where everyone is at who has a certain income level, maybe a certain psychographic that fits, and you could. And of course, there's a link here to learn more about Tapestry. You'll want to take a look at it. It's a fantastic resource, and you can use it with links or screenshots and do some fantastic things. And so you may want to put in your own zip code if you're in the United States. I think that is Esri, if I'm not mistaken, also can do some zip code or type postal address area in some foreign countries. I'm not sure which ones those are, and so if you're asking me, I'd tell you I'm going to get a 0 on that question. But nonetheless, I wanted to show you this to give you a sense of how we're using databases, okay, and how we're using the ability to do high-speed computation to provide information. And remember, the course, as I've said, information technology is decision-centric, and it's about data that I can turn into information that I can use to make decisions. So I think you'll want to take a look at this. It's a fantastic resource, and one that I think will be of great benefit to you. Now I'm going to go back over to the modules here for a moment, okay? And you'll notice as we're coming in here to this week, and I'll just again to kind of keep us going in terms of navigation and where we're at. This is the module view, and you can always pop these out so you can pop it and close them back up. They've got kind of a shutter effect. You have the announcements, and of course I always put I'll put the announcements over here in terms of maybe something like this zip code that I put out here for you is the screencast. Here's a link that shows you assignments, okay? And I need to go down here because I need to go to settings, all right, and then go into the student view so you can see. So I'm seeing the same thing. You're seeing the same thing I am, and I apologize about not having done that earlier. We'll close that up. And then there's week 0, we'll close it up. And then there's week 1, which we're at this week, which is the August 15th. Also, the discussions. Not everybody's gone to the discussion board, and there are no points attached to it. It's not required, but I would love to see. I think maybe 6 or 7 of us have already introduced ourselves. Again, that's always over there for you. And I think there are 14. I try to answer everybody as they post something about themselves. Then there's, of course, the grades, the grade book, and then, of course, the people, which is all the course participant, and then pages that are there. The key thing is going to be really 2 pieces here for you. First of all, I'm going to go back to the modules. And again, I'm just to kind of keep you familiar with the navigation. So you can see everything that's due or activities linked for a week are within the modules. Graded assignments, you click on the syllabus, it's going to be over here, and you'll see, okay, and you'll see them in chronological order. And of course, you should have had that exam done by 6 o'clock. And you have the other assignment for this week, August, for this week, is this tutorial, and I have an upload. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment because we're going to finish off the spreadsheet tutorial. That is Tanika Tanning Salon, and we're going to move on to the next Excel case, and that's going to be the Lake West University, okay? And we'll get on and we'll start to do some work with it tonight. So again, if you want to stay kind of up on what's going on, the syllabus is probably the one that will give you the list of the assignments are due, although the modules do the same thing. And if you want to see quizzes or assignments, but if you want to see everything all in one place, all neatly out there for you, I would say the syllabus is where you want to go. Now, of course, the resources for the file, in addition to those I had over there in the module for you to take a look at it. And I do want to encourage you, let me go back for a moment to the modules. And I really do truly want to encourage you to take a look there at the overview on business intelligence. What is it about? And the way that I teach this course is I come from some general operating principles or general themes. One is that information technology is decision-centric. You've heard me say that over and over and over. Secondly, that information technology augments communication, okay, as well as providing information for decision making, and that it also is the foundation of business intelligence. And business intelligence, this is essentially data, is essentially information that I can use to monitor internal and external performance of the firm, the internal performance of the firm, and then its external performance, say market share, and monitor its external environment. And so really what it boils down to is business intelligence asks every manager at each level, or business owner if they're an entrepreneur, what are the 3, 4, or 5 things you need to know every single day? And then what are those kinds of what-if kinds of things that you need to know about to be aware of in order for your firm to meet its mission? And again, I take it back to the business triangle that's there over in the Harrelson textbook. And I would encourage you to take, I think it's figure 1-3, and that it's that combination of hardware, software, and peopleware that build business intelligence. And so there's a nice overview there. And again, I would encourage you to take a look at Anscombe's article, and then I think I've got Anscombe's quartet there and the visual display of data. And then of course we talked about some of this in terms of big data. I do have one little different kind of resource here, and it's set in Silicon Valley now. It's almost always winner takes all. And one of the things that I can tell you is that in any industry, typically what happens in the United States is there will be anywhere between 3 and maybe 6 firms that will become the dominant firms. And they'll be the ones that have the vast majority of market share and resources, market cap, etc. And so we're seeing that it's the same thing with information technology companies, and so that's that process that occurs. And so that's why, given how competitive things are, that's what makes business intelligence such a critical thing. And also to understand how it really does drive, how it really does just drive companies in terms of their success or lack thereof. And the competition is so intense. And again, what technology has done has really speeded up the same kind of processes that operated. If we were taking this course 100 years ago, we'd be talking about electricity, and we'd be talking about the railroads, and companies today. The cloud, for example, is a good example. Is analogous to what happened at the start of the 20th century, when finally we had the electrical grid coming into play in the United States being developed, and we had the railways. Later on, of course, the development of highways. But at one point in the United States, when it was confined really to the eastern states, the United States was really at one point before the Louisiana Purchase was really bounded by the Mississippi River and the Appalachian Mountains. Everything was on the eastern seaboard basically, and so you had stuff moved by water, and then the development of the railroads, and then later, of course, the development of the interstate system and the highways. But that grid now today, so when you hear people talk about the cloud, that's the grid for the digital age. That's the grid. And so we're seeing companies who are using the grid, and just like back at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century or the end of the 19th century, many companies or groups of companies would have their own electrical company, or they'd have or they'd maybe have a sawmill that would also generate some electricity for them using hydroelectric power. Well, not firms today. Everybody goes and purchases space on a cloud. They don't build their own cloud. We've moved away from that point in time. So there's some interesting things that are happening, and this will give you an idea. And as we enhance our ability to see data and to understand the story that data are trying to tell us, the better the decisions become, and the more that this idea of competing on analytics, becomes so very important. So there's some things you'll want to take a look there. And again, I'll amplify on that with some newer types of things when I do the supplemental lecture. Now, I want to pop us over to the files section, because you may ask yourself, let's go first back to the syllabus. And I know that in your mind, the question is going to be, okay, what do I upload for this assignment? Well, let's go into the files, okay, and I'll show you. Now, if we do a search, we're going to do a search. We're still kind of messing with this salon, so I'm going to search for anything salon. Remember, there are 4 data files that deal with the salon case. In the salon case, that tutorial really goes all the way from page 256. Really, in truth, it goes really from 255 all the way over to page 290. And what I say is, okay, we're going to talk about pages 270. It's an upload that's going to deal with page 270. And if you have the Miller book open and you're over at page 270, okay, Miller book, the lab book, is that great big book, the green one. You'll see it has those week unit sales, and then creating the formulas for the weekly worksheets and all that business. And so any one of these 4 that you upload are fine, okay? Because I'll know that you've been here, you've heard this, and you've heard me tell you any one of the 4 is okay to upload. And so this week, what we're going to concentrate on is how we use we not only use the spreadsheet to tell us what's occurred, okay, but we're also going to talk about how we can use it to maybe give us a picture of how things will be if we continue the current course, or how can we adjust things. Now, on page 290, you're going to see the whole monthly sales summary, and you'll want to take a look at that. And I have the deliverables file. Let's look at it for just a moment. In fact, to make this a little bit easier, I apologize. You'll want to go ahead and download this. So I'm going to close this off and go over and download it to your desktop. And remember, again, any one of these 4 files you can upload for the assignment that's due on the 17th at 6 o'clock. And let's see here. Now, we had a series of deliverables, and let's look first of all at the summary. Okay, here's the summary that shows you by item, and then we have the category. Again, we talked about that building of the analytical cube, and so we have yearly enrollments. Okay, and that's one category, and then we have them over time in terms of units, and then in terms of dollar sales, and then we have the totals, So there's the summary. And then we had this ISI 1, okay? And that was that information, information specification question number 1, okay? And what we're being asked to do there, and I'm going to pop over and find that, but I can look at this to say, all right, tell us what are the levels of sales for that month of all of the tanning products. I don't even have to go into the book page to find it. There it is. And so you'll notice we have, of course, we have follow some general principles. And I'm going to talk about charting just a little bit. As you've heard me say, charting is one of those things that can rivet you for hours to try to get data produced. And charting devices and even Excel has its quirkiness, and people are working hard to make charting a much more intuitive process. So I'm going to start with this, but let's talk about this for just a minute, since we're talking about this week a little bit about the visual display of data. And we're going to look at this chart that we have here. And first of all, we have a good title for it. The chart title, I can even put my cursor and it will pop this up for me. And then as I have the category, the vertical axis. The vertical axis is, if you remember back, is the y-axis. The horizontal axis is the x-axis. If you remember, and you say, oh, this is starting to sound like linear algebra, yeah, or geometry, yeah, or coordinates, yeah, for sure. We always put the variable of interest, okay, over here. And here we're looking at types of lotion. That's our variable of interest. All right. Now down below here, we have dollar values. And here, of course, in a nice bar chart, shows us the sales of each of those products and how much they did that month. And again, you can see. Now, one of the things you always have to be careful about with a chart is making sure that usually charts, even the ones I produce, are not spatially perfect, meaning they have distortion built in. So half a space doesn't. So if I have a pie chart, for example, typically you won't have a perfect half of the pie. The software is designed to give you more of a Y-sig. What you see is what you get. So you have to be careful about it. So there's some conventions that you have to follow. One of them is obviously, this is really saying tanning products by month, by monthly sales. And then we have each of the products. And you notice I've gone ahead and used a bar chart because it kind of gives us a picture, a little bit of the sense of, the relative sizes of these. Okay, but I went ahead and added the dollars, the data series, so that you look at it and see, okay, well, you're really talking about $400 difference, because if I didn't have those, the difference between the 12-ounce and the 16-ounce lotion sales, that can be very, very deceiving. There's the old statement of figures lie and liars figure, and you do have to be careful with charts. I like Stephen Few's books. His classic is called By the Numbers, and he walks you through everything about the visual display of data and the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is not bad because it tells you, it gives you a little bit of a visual cue. Yeah, these they're fairly well up together. This is the highest. And let's talk about this for just a minute. Now, in a chart, okay, I always work on that principle of the breadcrumbs. And so if I'm interested in how a chart's put together, I'll click inside of it, okay? And when you do, you're going to see the chart tools should go hot at the very top, okay? And you can look at the chart in terms of its layouts. And those pieces that include the chart title. If you want a title for each axis, you can do that. If you want to use the legends, you can do that. If you want to provide data labels, you can do that. If you want to include a data table, the chart, so where those came from, you can do that. And I'm going to do this. I'm just going to click show the data table. Now, this is okay, all right? It kind of clutters it up visually. And it's redundant because you already have those figures over here. So I'm going to get rid of that. Now, one of the other things I also is if I want to show the plot area, I can do that. So I can do some maneuvering with it. And I'll click back inside here, and I want to click on the Design tab here in the Chart Tools, and you'll see I can click Select Data, and I do that, and what it will do is it will tell me where are the data and how are they organized. Now, very simply put, when you click on the Select Source Data, you're going to see the legend entries, the series, okay, and that's the Y data, and then the horizontal, and they will even tell you the axis, the horizontal categorical or axis labels, and there they are, okay? And if you want to edit those, you can. Click on Edit, it will show you the series name and where you got the data. So if you want to create a chart, you can just simply use that, select the data, and build them in. I'm not going to go through a whole lot of that because, frankly, there's so many good aids out there about how to do charting in Excel, and this textbook is not bad. It does a pretty good job of walking you through charting, but I'll just cancel that. But again, you see, if I want to, I'll edit this. And what I did was to get those labels, okay, I went through and selected, each of the types of lotions, okay? And that's all that we've got going on there. Now click OK here. And this is, this isn't bad. It's decent. Now you can also do some other chart layouts if you want to experiment a little, just see what it looks like. You're not going to break it, okay? And you can put in an axis title here and an axis title there. I don't know that it's necessary because I think it's pretty clear. We're comparing sales, so we use the title to the title is the first thing the reader's going to look at. Then they're going to work left to right, okay? And so we have the title that's appropriate. Then we have these axes. The series, the name for the chart for the Y-axis, okay, and so it's a fairly intuitive chart. I mean, there's not that much there. Again, you can select on Layout 3, and so that looks like, it's bigger bars. But again, notice you don't have the pop outs. Now, if you put your cursor, it will give you those data, but this is a little deceiving because this looks like a whole lot more than the other, and when in truth it's maybe it's roughly 10%, okay, and you could take the two figures and look at them. Here, this looks almost, and this is one of the things about charts you have to be careful. Now, one of the other things about charting and the visual display of data that's important is to remember this. You click right here and you take a grappling hook, you can move this thing down. You can get some distortions created by enlarging a chart, okay? Or you can really distort it by sizing it down. And you look at, if you see how the sizing here now, you can see the 12-ounce lotion, if you didn't have the data call outs over here, it would look like there's almost twice as much in sales. That's why I say a lot of people don't like Excel because it's not visually true, if you want to say. But the people at Microsoft assume that you're going to be intelligent enough that when you create a chart, that you'll put in the proper labeling and the proper data call outs, and that the people who are consuming the chart will be intelligent enough to see this and understand. You can't always bank on that. One of the other things is you want to be careful about what I call screen clutter, and that is we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 types of lotion or tanning products. If we had 25, that becomes a whole different critter. And so when we start to get a whole bunches of variables, we can be strained. And as you can see, there is a box or a window box, is what I call it, within Excel that you're going to see. If you get outside and you get a chart that exceeds this size, you're starting to get over in crazy land. So if you want to see what was the top selling, or the order, you're good to go there. And again, these are little things, but again, we're using data for decision making. And so my question would be, well, should I put more money into trying to sell 12-ounce lotion? Should I sell it at a lower price? 16-ounce, is this where I need to be? And again, I might want to find out, well, from the folks who sell this stuff, how much, a similar type store, how much do they sell? And now Tamika's Tanning Salon is part of a chain of them. There will be comparisons, and you might have another bar for another store and another location for each of these. So not that big of a deal. Now I want to go back and take a look at the summary for a moment, because I want to talk about again this visual presentation. And we do try to use an approach where we take the reader or the end user and we take them through an orderly progression. And let's look at this for a moment. Again, as I've talked about these breadcrumbs, so if I want to see how this is put together, you can do it the hard way by going through all those pages of directions and all that, or you can go and come over and look at this tanning salon, which I've done for you to show you. Now, I'm going to click there in row 1, and you can see it's emerged and centered. So how do you know that? Well, it's all up here. Here's the placement. I'm in bold. I'm using a Calibri font and size 26. Okay, and then I'm using a dark blue fill with a white with white font color. Now, watch what happens, and you can see this. We scale this down, and now we have the same, but now we've gone from 26 font to 16. Okay, and then we take that from a 16 down to an 11. So here we were at a differential, if you will, of 26 to 16. That's a differential of 10 between row 1 and 2. And then at row 3, I took it down to a differential of 5. Because if I took it at 10, I'd be down to 6. It'll be too small. So this is pretty typical. We'll have 2 similar differentials down and then the third one. So this is a heading, first level heading. Here's a second level heading. Here's a third level heading. And I'm going to say something that will probably want you to put garlic around your neck or the sign of the cross, or get a cross out and hold it up. Now I'm going to say the words APA. APA style uses the progression of headings. First level, second level, and then headings, the third level, are typically those that are bold-faced or italic, embedded in a paragraph. And those of you, and as you're writing your papers, I'm sure you're putting your hands over your eyes and ears over and you're going, oh, how, yes, I understand. But again, this is the way we organize the data, okay? This is very, very important. Then, of course, over here we see again the weeks. And when it's thought through, the authors, I'm sure, sat down and did a kind of a storyboard for this. All right, and I'm always one of those. If I have a whole bunch of data that I'm gonna have to try to analyze, I will try to create a storyboard, if you will, of the summary of the data, and it's going to be in a table, because then I'm going to begin to do some work. Now, again, information technology is a value-added process, so we take, and here we're using, we have them in categories, okay? And this is ordered on the basis, this summary is ordered on what is the top selling item, what's the bottom selling item, what are the top 2 items, here they are, and here are the bottom 2. So, and you say, well, how can I see it? Well, it's simple. I can look down the progression and I can see. And we can see the total dollar sales, how that's computed. Okay, and then that algorithm that just follows those columns, then row by row. So here's a summary of the data, and they're summarized with the largest sales on down. Now I have a couple of other tabs in here, and here's a tab for page 279. And so I'm going to pop over to page 279, and this is where they are talking about using a pivot table and a pivot table layout. I'm going to click inside, okay, and I should see the pivot table tools, okay, that show up, and you can see them over here as the field list. When we look at a pivot table and how it's put together, think of it like this. The report filter is a big frame. Then we have the column that fits within that. Then we have the rows, and then we have the intersection of the columns and the rows, and those are the values. And in this case, this is over here. We want to see, we're looking at the total sales by category. And again, I will talk about formatting. I'm going to take this and I'm going to unformat it, change it from currency just to general numbers, and you can see it gets a little bit tough. Now, if you're pressed for space, okay, or if you want to, you can always just, when you hit like a total or a subtotal, just put the data in a format, okay, that implies, yeah, this is money, okay? So you don't absolutely have to have it formatted like that. That's up, that's up to you. I prefer this because I just think visually it's less cluttered. Now, if I want to, I'll assume that a reader can look at this, and we have these total sales by category, and we have the grand total, but we don't really have them ordered. That is the category where we've sold the most. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to use conditional formatting. I'm going to use a thermal, and I'm going to come down here to the color scales, okay, and I'm going to use a green, a green to red, and that is the darker the green, the higher the number, okay. And then yellow is kind of in between, and then red is the lowest. And I can do this, and I can see these in terms of, I can see the ranking of them for all intents and purposes. I can see this is the darkest green, and we can use this thermal. Now it doesn't, when I have one of the nice things about conditional formatting is if I have 25 or 30 of these, I can really I can really use it to simplify charting. If I'm really wanting to not have to do a whole bunch of charts. Now I can also insert a pivot table chart, I can get those data and create the chart for them. But this is about as easy and simple as it gets. And I can easily tell, okay? And one of the nice things about conditional formatting, I'm going to highlight those 3 rows there, is I can go in, I can clear the rules from the selected cells, and then I can go back and I can do some other types of things. Let's say, for example, if I want to highlight those cells, the cells, I want to highlight those that are greater than, cells that are greater than 20,000. Because I say, okay, any product I'm selling, I want to hit 20,000. And if it does that, I'm going to choose a green fill with a dark green text. Boom. Okay, and I have my one outlier that doesn't meet that criterion. Okay, so one of the nice things also I like about this is that you can do it on the fly, just like I'm doing here. And this keeps a lot of it very simple. Very, very simple. And the simpler usually, the better. Now I go back into conditional formatting, and I'll click on those. I'll clear the rules from the selected cells. I'll do that, clear them off. And here we are. Now, one of the nice things about pivot tables, and what I really like, is that we have total sales here in terms of dollars. Instead of total dollars, let's do this. I'll just take my, I can move this off, and I'm going to look at total units. Now, if I also want to look at total dollars, I'll just add that in. Okay. Now, this adds to the analysis, where I'm starting to look at the sum of total dollar sales and the sum of total units. You say, okay, well, what would you be looking for? Well, what I'd be looking for would be a situation where I have a high number of units, okay, and a low number of dollars comparatively, or I would have a high number of units, low dollars, or low number of units, high dollars. You could work a little matrix out on a piece of paper to say, look for, and you look for the outliers, okay? And again, that's one of the values of this. And if I want to take this off, if I say I want to compare them, I can click on value field settings. I'm going to do the total units. And instead of the sum, I'm going to get the average. Now we're going to compare their averages. I'll go to value field settings, and I'll click on average. Okay. If I want to, I can also use some other summary data. In the value field settings, I can click down here, and I can come down and I can get the standard deviation, or the standard deviation for a population, or the variance, which is standard deviation squared. And again, you know, it's up to me what I want to do. And I can go ahead back and click those off, click that off, and I'm back, and then we can put in the total dollars value, total dollar units, total dollar sales, and we're back to where we started. And we can add some borders in, make it a little prettier. That's over. And the reason I mentioned, I said it's 279 because they show you how to work with the pivot table and its layout. And always think of the report filter, okay, as a big one. Now, I'm going to do something here, and on the report filter, I'm going to use, we've got the week 1, I'm going to use it by item. And watch what's going to happen. Okay, now I have the sum of total dollar sales by category. Okay, but if I want to look at items, all right, I can do that, and I can look at the bronze or any one of these, or select multiple items. So I can build that nice. I can even enhance that analytical cube I talked about by doing that. Okay, so this one tab is quite useful. I have another little tab over here called page 277, and let's look at it for just a second. Okay, and over here on page 277, they have us do some filters. Okay, and we're using some filters, and I'd added over some additional category, some additional fields where I put in, or I duplicated the, I put in the item and their total dollar sales rank, and then their category. All right, and they're talking about using filters here. And I'm just going to, again, I added this in to give us some comparative data. Okay, and you can do this by using the fields. You can do it by filters. When you're using a filter, you're working with records. When you work with a sort, you're working with attributes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on. Let's see. Let's go up here to row 4. And I'll just come all the way down to row 4 to row 22, and I'll pick up everything. And then I'm going to come over here and click filter and sort. And I can sort them from A to Z, larger to smaller. Typically that's alphabetical or alphabetical in reverse, or I can do a custom sort, and I can add a level. Okay. In this case, I've got total dollars sales, largest to smallest. I can add another level, and we'll do that. We'll look at total dollars sales, and let's look at item category. Well, you know, that doesn't tell us a lot, so we'll just skip that. We'll cancel that. But you can play with it. But what I did was I went ahead and added another band on here and took the categories, okay, by rank, okay, and their total dollar sales rank, and then I added in the category. So I enhanced what was there in 277 so I could see, okay, and notice I did this, I added in the session to add a little more. I added these in just to give us a little more clarity in terms of total dollar sales rank. Okay. And I wanted to let you explore that because I threw a couple of things in there that may just not be right. So you may want to play around with that a little bit. Kind of a little challenge every now and then. Let's look at sheet 5 and sheet 6. Those are sheets I left empty. We've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, not any big deal there. So as I mentioned before, any one of those files that you want to upload for this second file upload, do so. That's up to you. I'm going to close this off for a second. I'll click Don't Save. All right. And I want to click on Salon Complete. I keep wanting to do this display, and I need to just download it. I'm going to download this Salon Complete. Okay. And here is, of course, the summary. All right. And then here are the weeks. I have the price list. Then I have the summary. And here, one of the things I don't have in here is I have the sessions. All right. I have the units. I have the sales. But I don't have the prices. So this is kind of problematic. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the prices. So how are you going to do that? What would be an easy way to do it? Well, it would be very simple. I'm going to come here on the price list, all right? And in fact, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to click on the summary. I'm going to come here to column B. I'm going to click Insert, and it will insert a column. And I'm going to put that in that, and right there, I'm going to put in price. And then I'm going to squinch it back up. Okay. And I'll squinch it as much as I need to. So I have, and then I just simply, I'm going to come over here and take the price list. Okay. And I'll copy them and paste them right in. And there they are. Now, they're a little bit oversized, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click right here on one session. I'm going to click Copy, Format Painter, and then I'm going to paint that format Now, I want to make sure I've got them in the right font size and all that. I'm going to go ahead and make them, I'm going to make them currency. And there it looks just fine. And so we've got our 1 sessions, 5 sessions, etc. And I'm going to take column A and I'm going to squinch it back a little bit so I have better. You remember earlier I mentioned about the visual acuity piece of this. Notice now, anytime I get beyond in Excel, in a tab, anytime I get beyond column K or L, it starts to get sketchy. So I always want to be as judicious or as parsimonious with the amount of size as possible. And one of the things I can do here is I can go ahead and move these to the left, okay? And that'll let me scoot this over just a little bit more. It clutters it just a hair, but not too terribly. So now I have the plan items. I have the total weekly sales. I have all of that data. All right. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to play around a little bit with some tools, and I'm going to put my cursor on A4. And this is recorded, so if you mess up, you can always come back and redo it, or do it. Again, it's a workshop we're learning, and I'm going to go all the way from A4 to M22, and I'm going to click Control-C. I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to come down here and insert a new worksheet. I'm going to come up in the far left, and I'm going to paste the values. Okay. And I'll need to squinch these out so I have the week one. These are, and so that we have values that we're working with. So I copied and pasted the values. I'll go back over here to summary, click escape, and then I'm back over here in this sheet. And I'm going to call this. I'm going to rename it what ifs. Okay, because we're going to look at some what if tools, and then I'm going to go ahead and give a tab color, and in honor of our school, I'm going to use a gold, or green and gold, but I'm going to stick with a nice green. And so we're in the what ifs. So we have all these now, nothing really but raw data, okay, which is fine, not a big problem. And now we're going to play around a little bit with the what if scenarios, okay? Now, let me diminish this down for a moment and mention to you that if you want to see some output and you want to see it used, there is this salon scenario file using Simplex, and you can take a look at it. We're going to, first of all, I'm going to start with, and I'm going to click on data. And then I'm going to click on what if analysis. And I'm going to click on the very first one, which is called goal seek. All right, and I'm going to click goal seek. And it says set a cell. Okay, let's say, you cancel this out for a minute because I got ahead of myself. Let's take total dollar sales. Okay, and let's start at row 2. Let's do some work here for a minute to make sure we know we don't get ourselves messed up. Let's go ahead and bold up those category headers, and then below them, let's put in some borders. See, much better now. Now I can, and I'll go ahead and pop that so I can see the full name of each product. And we got their price. Let's put the price, put that in the middle, so it fits very nicely. Oh, okay, there we go. Now, we're going to come over here to total dollar sales. All right, and we're going to use the auto sum. And we see, now on the auto sum, just to make sure I'm in good shape, I'm going to go ahead and put that in comma style, so I don't fool myself. In fact, I could take all of these total dollar sales and put them in comma style, The comma is just nothing more than a little notch that tells me I'm dealing with thousands, hundreds. I'm dealing with thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. You get the drill. Now, I want to use goal seek, and so I'm going to click on, I'm going to go back over here and click on data. And let me mention again, when you click on data, if you don't see the solver and you don't see the data analysis showing up over on the far right hand, let me show you how to add them. Click File, click Options, and then come to Add-ins. And those add-ins that are active are going to be up here, and if they're not, then you'll want to you'll want to add them. I'm gonna, let's see, what have we got here? I'm gonna add in oh, I don't know I'm gonna put in Euro currency tools in honor of our friends in England. And I'm gonna click go, and it will say, okay, do you want to add that in? And I'll say, yes, I want to add in Euro currency tools. I'll click OK. Okay, and I have the data analysis tool, and I also have the Euro currency tools if I want to add them. That's all you got to do. Now, I'm going to click on what if analysis, and I'm going to click on goal seek. And it says set cell, and I'm going to set the cell right here. That's going to be, that's M20. And don't use any commas or any decimal points or anything, just put in. I'm going to change this to 150,000, 15030. By changing the cell, and I want to know how much more in terms of one session sales do I need to do in terms of total dollars to get myself to $150,000, if that's my goal for all revenue. And there it is. Okay, now I can see that this was originally 1,005. This is originally like 1,048. Okay, and so I can look at that, and I'll click cancel on that. It'll take us back to original values, but I can. You know, I can always put down the the current and then I can put the current and then the goal, and I'll make this units. I mean one session. Okay. And then total, grand total, or I could do this with screenshots if I want to, but I'm gonna do a little bit of data manipulation here. So I'm gonna do grand and total, and I'll put this current and goal. Make sure you don't use a cell reference, but instead you these are like placeholders. And I'm gonna put this in, it'll be 1,005. Okay, that's the current, and then I'll put the current grand total right here is 148, 948.97. Okay. And that's where we are currently. Now, I'm going to use my goal seek again, and I'll click on it because I have my base values, and I'm going to set the cell M20 to 150,000 by changing cell M2, and we'll click OK. And it will tell me, and now I click OK, and it tells me that I want to get total dollar sales to 2,056.03, and then that gets me to the goal of 150,000. And so I see, and now, of course, you say, well, could I go ahead and then look at the, and what I need to do? Yes. Now I can take this meet goal, and I'm going to do this in terms of data, and this is obviously going to be to meet the goal, and I'll put this right over here. I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants here, I know that. I mean, this will be equal the 2056 minus that 1005, and so I know I need to get another $1,051 in sales for one session to meet that goal, and obviously the difference is going to be the same up here. So now, knowing that, and these are being sold at $5, I can take this, okay, and we're selling those at $5 a piece divided by the price over here, and boom, and that means I've got to sell 210 more, which says essentially I'm going to have to double the amount of one sessions that I sell to meet that goal. So as I've said before, this is a course about it's decision centered. If I want to hit that $150,000 goal, if I think I'm going to do it by selling one sessions, I'm really going to have to do some hard work. And you say, Dr. Harmon, does it make a lot more sense to come up here and look at some of these other more high dollar units, or those that cost more, and to get there? Yeah, look, for a moment, for just a second, look at the yearly enrollments, okay? The yearly enrollment's $350. I can do 3 of those and meet my goal. Three additional yearly units, okay? So this is using the goal seek, you know, as a way to identify a possible outcome, and I'm working just with one variable. And typically I'm working with something that feeds into a grand total, or something that feeds into a ratio. That's typically where I'm going to be working. I'll be to get a certain. I'll be looking at something that feeds into a sum, okay, or a difference, or something, or how could I change the numerator or denominator to get a certain ratio that I desire. Okay, so right now I know off the bat I'm going to have to sell. I'm going to have to double my sales in one session units, and that's going to be a lot. So that's off the table. So what it automatically tells me here is, boy, if I could do 3 more yearly enrollments, I'll get to that goal of $150,000. Okay, so I might want to try. I might want to try to do that. You say, could you raise the price of your current yearly enrollments and get that additional $1,000 some odd dollars that you want, this $1,051? Yeah, you could do that. You sell, how many units have you got? Look at that for a minute. You sold 108 units, so you got to sell 110 this year. So you're basically selling a couple of them a week. If you can bear the traffic and bring it up, those 350. Really, all you have to do is charge. There's 108 of them, so if you take it from 350 to 360, assuming you'll keep the 108, you'll get that additional $1,000. In fact, 10 times 108 is $1,080. So you could see you could do a little bit of work with your pricing there to achieve that goal. So a goal seek can kind of get you started. It's nice. It's a one variable kind of explanation. So I'm going to back out of this. And I'll let you, and you can always play around with this, because we're going to look at the scenario manager, which is a little bit more complicated critter. And then we'll go over and I'll show you what we did with, and I think we'll play with simplex a little bit, but not too much. Now, a second what if analysis tool is the scenario manager. And I'm going to click on it. And here in the scenario manager, I'm going to add, okay, and I'll add the base units, and we're looking at we're going to call it base total units by changing cells, and we're going to come over here to the total units. And we're getting the base, so we know what that is. We'll click OK. And it's going to show us each cell what we have. And we'll click OK. And then if we want to see that base total units, our starting point, we'll click Show. And there it is. Now, one of the things we didn't do with this is let's go ahead and get the total there. And so we'll click on Home, and then we'll do the auto sum. And we know right now we're at 2282. So I'm going to click back in here, and I'm going to click on Data. And I'm going to come back over to What If Analysis. So I'm going to do the Scenario Manager and open it up. And there are my base total units. That's the base. And let's say, for example, I anticipate some changes, okay? And I'm going to run some specials. Now, I'm going to go ahead in here and I'm going to add, let's see, I'm going to call it, I'm going to click Add and the scenario name, and I'm going to call New Ad Campaign. Okay, it's a new ad campaign, and I'm going to do it by changing cells L2, okay, to L19. I'll click OK. Now, I can go through and I can change every single cell that I want to, okay? But, and it will identify for me what's in each of those cells. Now I've got L2, L3, and let's say that I decide I'm going to concentrate on the people that sell me my oils and tan enhancer and all that junk. I've said they're going to have a national campaign, and they think that this is really going to increase sales, and that I should anticipate about a 10% bump in the volume of my sales. Okay. And so we'll come down here and let's see if we can find, and we start with those, the product, that's the PR category. So we're going to come down here to A12. We'll come down here to L12, pardon me. And at L12, I've got 147. And I'm going to change that. We'll add that. We'll make that 162. Remember, we're thinking we're going to get about a 10% bump. And then in L13, we're going to change that from 122. That'd be another 12. So we're going to make that 134. Okay. And then in L14, I'm going to call that 152 because I figure I'll get another 14. Okay, I haven't done the dollars yet because I'm just looking at units. And let's look at L16, which is going to be the enhancer, and that's 125. And I'll add another 12 to that. I'll make that 137. And you can see this is a multi-variable kinds of thing. And then L17, that's the 16 ounce. I think we're going to add another 8. So I'll make that 96. I'll click OK. We only chose the stuff that deals with the products. All right. And now I've got that saved, and I'll click Show. And it shows me the change in those product areas and the change in the number of units. Okay, so now for me, if I wanted to, it's simple. If I wanted to see the dollar value change, I just go ahead and do the extensions, and I work them through. But I've got I've used the scenario manager to say, what do my total units look like? Okay, if I'm looking if this ad campaign will increase the sales of these products by 10%, or the manufacturer is going to offer an incentive program that they figure will get a 10% bump in volume. Okay, and so I click show. Right, and if I'm that concerned about it, here's what I'll do. I have the base totals already. If I'm going to go back to the base where I was, I just click show and it takes back the original values. I want to see the new ad campaign. I click show and it shows me that. I'm going to close this and I'm just going to do it again, and I'm going to get projected sales. And so it's going to be easy. I'm going to take this L2 times B2, and I'm going to put a $sign in front of the L so that it knows that we stay with the column. And then I'll just simply come down. All right, and then I'm ready, and I'll total that. I'll click home, and I'll put in the auto sum. Oops, I don't know these. And that gives me a new figure. And I'll make that comma, and so we can see with that if that with those new unit sales in products, that's the new figure that I have. So that's how we use the scenario manager. Okay, and so we've gone from using GoalSeek to look at one thing, where we use the scenario manager now to do everything. Okay, and probably not everything, but look at a whole set of scenarios. Now, I could also, if I want, I can go ahead and click data. If I want to, I can go back and I'll click what if, and I'll click on the scenario manager, and I'll go back to the base total units. And I'll click show, and that'll show me where that shows me, and then I'm back to the other. If I want to do the new ad campaign, again, I can do that. So I can work with the scenario manager. It lets me work with a set of variables, whereas with GoalSeek I take one variable and how it impacts some total or something like that. Well, the third of these is there's the data table. A third one is solver, and I'm going to click on it for a minute. Let's talk about that. And the solver, there's a lot of stuff over on YouTube that will show you how to use solver. Solver is a fairly simple tool to use, okay? And it's a tool for optimization. As managers, we try to do the best we can with what we've got to work with. So this is called optimization, okay? I teach a whole management science course on nothing on how we use optimization in a whole variety of settings. But again, using data for information, to convert information for decision making, I like to see, okay, given my constraints, what can I do? And I'm just going to walk you through this, okay? And then I have one that we've constructed for you, okay? And we'll play with this a little bit and see if we can get something. But I want to walk you through the structure. You can see the other one. I want to walk you through the structure of this. First is what we call the objective function, okay? And now we would choose a cell. For example, I might choose total dollar sales, okay? Now, I'm after total dollar sales, and I can do one of three things. I want to maximize it. Let's say in this case it's sales revenue, so I maximize. If these were costs, I'd want to minimize it, or I may have a target value in mind, and that target value could be our mythical 150,000. And then we change our variable cells, and we choose the cells that we want to change. Okay, and we're going to look at I'm going to change these cells. Okay, and we're going to have, and then we add some constraints, and I'll click on the add and I'll show you. And I want to, and I've got the, but changing the variables, and then I can add some constraints, and it's giving me a little bit of a hassle here. We want to do a simplex LP, and see if it's going to let me, yeah, they're not going to let me do that. So let's just, yeah, I'm trying to hit a target value, so they're not going to let me build some constraints in. So let's just go ahead and click solve on this, and we got the LP, and see if we can get a solution. It's not going to let us have that solution because we're messing around with it a little bit too much in terms of trying to hit. Let's maximize that. Instead of putting a value, I'll go back to the value of. I'm going to maximize that value, that, and that's M20. Okay, and I want to maximize it by changing the variables M9 to M13, and then I'll try to add a constraint. Let's see if I can do that. And giving me some troubles here. And I can have a cell reference, and I'm going to add a constraint. And I'll do the cell reference is going to be, let's see, I'm adding a constraint, and the cell reference would be here. It's not letting, it's not playing nice with me, not at all. And I'll just type in the cell reference because it looks like it's not going to let me do it. So I'm going to put in M16. Okay, and must be less than or equal to 3498, and let's see if it's going to let me add that constraint. And we'll click OK. Oh, it's not playing nice with me now. Why are you doing this to me? All right, I'll do the cell reference. Okay, got M16, and it's got to be less than or equal to. Let's say it's got to be less than or equal to. Yeah, we'll make it 34.99. And I'll click OK. Let's see if we did OK, and they're OK. Now I have my, in fact, I had the two, so yeah, it's being goofy with me, probably because I've got this other application on. Let me move this here for just a moment out of the way. And I'm going to take this, here's a constraint. We've said M16 has to be less than or equal to 34.98, and we have a second one. So click on that first one and delete it. Okay, and I'll go back to Solver and open it back up. And it is really going to be, it is really acting weird with me. We're going to put this in simplex, and we'll take this one, and we'll delete it. Oh, it's not going to let me do that. Well, it's going to give us a jumbled answer. And we're going to try the simplex anyway and see if we can get it to solve. I don't think we're going to get to. I want to edit this. And I want to change it. And I'm going to make, instead of cell M16, I'm going to make it cell M17. And it has to be equal to or less than 3079. And we'll click OK. You can see I'm getting some weird stuff here. And there it is. Well, no, it didn't do it. Well, trust me, it works. Probably because I've got this broadcast, I got error. I don't know what the world's going on with this. But now, we've added our constraints in, okay? And now I can go ahead and run a simplex LP, and I'll let you look at, find out what each of these are all about, or a nonlinear. Simplex assumes that there's a linear relationship between these variables, and we'll see what we get with solve, okay? And we want to maximize, and we're probably going to get gibberish yell in that. So see if we can run it again. I'm going to reset all, and I'm going to change the variable. Let's see what we get here. I'm going to choose this variable, and we want to maximize that cell, and we're going to add, let's not even add a constraint. Let's just try to run it without a constraint and see what we get on simplex. Okay, I'm having some issues with this. So I'm going to close this off for a minute. And I want to close this off. Now let's get rid of this, and I want to come in and show you. I don't know why it's giving me a password error for some reason. I'm having fun here, probably because I'm in this student view. Let me leave the student view for a minute. There we go, and let's see if I can restore some order to this wildness that we've gotten ourselves involved in. I'm going to click on the settings. I'll go back to student view. Okay, and let's go back over to the files, and we'll put salon. And here's the salon scenario with using the simplex. I want to download this. Okay, hopefully it will. And I'm going to enable the editing. And then I'm going to come over here, and when we run the simplex, I'm going to click on data solver, and here's a fully set up simplex. Now the constraints are obvious. The value for a given thing should be at a certain equal to or lesser than, greater than, or equal to or lesser than, equal to or greater than, or equal. Okay, and then those are the constraints, and you can see the constraints are built in here. For example, are the units for D2, D3, D4, D5, and D6. And I said, okay, they've got to be equal to or less than each of those units. And I'm going to maximize E20, which is the total, okay? And the cells that are changing are D2 through D6, okay? And I'm using simplex, and simplex assumes that there is a linear relationship between sales and units, which we know there is. If we weren't sure, we could use a thing called the evolutionary, which just runs models over, and you could set up the number of times you want to simulate that model. There's also what's called the GRG nonlinear, and that is if you don't think that you have two variables that are linear in nature, but you still want to try to use the simplex. You want to look at the optimal. And so I've got this set up, and we'll click solve. And it's going to tell me that we have a result set, that we found a solution. And then we have some reports we can get, and we're going to click answer, sensitivity, and limits. We've already done this, so we have those reports, and we'll talk about them for just a minute. And so I'm going to just put cancel. Okay. Let's look at these first of all and look at the answer report. And in Excel, they'll show you, here was the cell. Here's what's the name of the cell, the original value. Okay. And we tried to maximize it, okay, using a certain set of constraints. Okay. But here was the original value. Remember, we had set a constraint saying, I can't this will have to equal to or less than these figures, okay? And so I'm trying to say is, okay, if I need to get, if I want to get to 148,000, but I have some constraints in terms of how many units I can sell, okay, then I have to look at some of the formulas here and the cell values, and they say these are binding, meaning I have to use these. I don't have any slack resources. Then we can get what we call a sensitivity report, okay, and that tells us how much can I change. Now, this is a useful report. Again, let me say this. This is a quick and dirty of using the solver in Excel, and it's a nice tool, and it's one of those things you may have used it a little bit. I really think it's something you want to either you want to get a book on using Excel solver and all the different ways to use it, or you want to go to the internet and do a lot of work on it. But I want to show you what we've got going on here in terms of the sensitivity report. This does a sensitivity analysis. It says, okay, here's the final value. Here's what we reduced in terms of the cost. Here was the objective function. Here's it. When we see this, we have a very, very small allowable increase. We can take 5, so we can produce 5 less, okay, and still hit that objective function. And so we have some allowable decreases, okay, and they're the final values. Then we have a thing called the limits report. This shows us the lower limit, the upper limit. That was the original value. And as you can see, what we could do if we choose would be to produce 100 units here, okay, 0 units here, and we're going to come close to hitting that objective function, because that shows you the objective result. So if we want to go to D6 and take that and not produce any more, we're good to go. It's a little bit complicated, not as intuitive as Goal Seek or Scenario Manager. And again, I think it's something you want to maybe get a book if you're that interested, or take a course on management science and use it, or go out to the internet. There's all kinds of help on using scenario analysis. I mean, the using solver. It's used to do simulations. Basically, we've simulated what do things look like if I set up an objective function, i.e. a goal, to minimize, maximize, or hit a specific goal, and then the constraints that I want to build in, and then the model, which is, are these data linear in nature? Are they nonlinear? Or what we call an evolutionary model. And the evolutionary model is where we just run the model till we get as close to an approximate answer as we can get. But we say, okay, I'm going to stop after a certain number of iterations. Okay, so that it's a little bit more than what, but I think Goal Seek and Scenario Manager are exceptionally intuitive, easy to use, and they're great little tools because you can look at possible futures. And again, IT is about being decision-centric, and using tools like this that let me look forward to say, where would I be? Or do forecasting, okay, would be one of those. The data analysis tool pack, I'll talk about that just quickly here because we're now at an hour and 40 minutes. I promise you about that much time. I don't know if you've had, I assume most of you had a static course. If you haven't, I'm not sure, but you will see there are some excellent tools in here that let you do some data modeling. That is, look at building some forecasts. One of them is exponential smoothing. Okay, another is the moving average. Okay, there's the regression model, which is a good to use, and so there are some nice tools that you can use, and a lot of explanatory. Office provides you a lot of nice information on how these work. And in addition, there's always, like I said, there's always tons of stuff on YouTube. People share it. It's a wonderful thing that it's out there. And again, if you want to do some, you could do some forecasting. You use exponential smoothing. Okay, you've got that one. You've got the moving average, and each of these are used in their own particular way. You've got regression, where you build a line of best fit, and so you can see those are, and these are pretty powerful data analysis tools that you got. So Excel doesn't do you wrong in that sense. And so we've looked at scenarios, and I put in a scenario today. So we'll talk about this for just a moment. Over here is a scenario analysis and a goal seek. And remember, I talked about, you know, doing an A/B experiment, changing prices, and we talked about elasticity. And I've got some data in here that we look at increments for one session to obtain a revenue goal of $1,100, and we'd have to bump the revenue 9.45%. We got to bump the price 5%, and then we assume, okay, we have a new price, and we change the price to $5.47. So we assume a new demand level of 190, which is basically, we're assuming that there's a one-to-one change or elasticity in the price. In other words, for every 1% we increase the price, the sales will go down 1%. Or correspondingly, for every 1% I reduce the price, the sales will go up. When we say a good is a verb-linked good, okay, you'll want to go out and maybe do a little bit of search on that. I've got some verbiage here that talks about verb-linked goods and using and price elasticity. And again, we could see what possible outcomes we could run into. And we can do some pricing experiments to see how elastic our goods are, or get a sense of it. Because if I lower the price of an item, okay, and I find that I don't get a corresponding increase in volume, okay, then I've got some problem. Okay, I have an inelastic good, which means, you know, my customers are not really price sensitive, okay? And on the other hand, you know, I may have goods that are very price sensitive, and I have to be careful about it. So this is one of these ways we can use goal seek and scenario analysis to do a little more work. And I have over here some daily analysis, okay? And I took the days, and again, here we did a drill down to go from weeks. Okay, here I'm doing a drill down looking at categories of products. Okay, and here I'm looking at instead of weeks, I drill down to a daily analysis. Okay, and how much am I selling per day? Okay. Which gives me another bit of food for thought to look at and analyze. And again, I can apply goal seek here. I could copy this and then paste the values, use the goal seek. I could try to use Solver if I want to, but I probably want to use scenario analysis and goal seek and play around with it a little bit to see what possible outcomes I might get if I have a target value, okay, or if I assume, say, that I have some reductions in sales of some of these sessions of these categories of products, or maybe certain particular products, or reductions of volume on a certain day, okay, and you know, what would it look like if I'm closed Sunday? Okay, what will it do to me? and that kind of thing. Well, folks, it's been nearly 2 hours, and I appreciate I've got all 10 of you here, and I do appreciate that. I want to come back over for a minute and give all of you a shout out. Dylan, again, thank you so much for being here. Nancy, and I see Simon is here. Zach, David, I see Owner, and I see Dimitri. And so we've got, I guess they're counting me in as well as the host. But I do want to say thank you for being here. Again, you can use it like a recording and look back and forth, and play it, replay it, and enjoy. So I'm gonna diminish this down, and I'm gonna stop the share and then stop the recording. If you have some questions about this, please feel free to pop me an email, or let me see if there's anybody. Let me open this up for just a minute. Is there anybody that has a question or anything? If you want, I'll unmute your. If you've got your audio on, or if you have a microphone, you can speak, or you're on a phone. Anybody have a question? I'll see if anyone. Well, I guess no one does. Okay, and that'll pretty much do it. So, folks, thank you again, and have a great one. And I'll be doing a supplemental lecture and a supplemental lab, and that will, that'll walk us through to week 2. And I look forward to seeing your work. And let me close this off for a minute, because I think there's one little thing other that I want to do. So I'm going to close this file, and I want to go back over here to the assignments area. And like I said, any one of the Salon files, okay, you can upload that. Let me go to the syllabus thing. And you've done most all of you have done the exam. This tutorial, you can upload any one of the Salon files, okay? Because we've gone through all of them. I don't care, just upload a file so you can get the credit. And that's due by the 17th, which is Thursday, 6 p.m. Now you're going to see some things called the case follow-up, okay? And then the quiz and the exam, but the case follow-up, and I want to encourage you to go over to the modules, okay? And let's look at this for just a moment. And I want to talk about the case follow-up, and I've got a step-by-step solver resources. We'll talk about that. The case follow-up. Now, I'm going to click on this for just a moment. Okay, and you need to upload a file. Let me pop back here for just a second. And I think we're going to find this up here in the getting started portion. And I should have some directions for you on case follow-ups. Okay, here you go. This is in that module called Getting Started and Greeting Your Colleagues. And when you come down here, you'll see here's the directions for case follow-ups, okay, and what those are all about, okay. And just put these in. Let me say this: I like screenshots, and handle this like a memo as opposed to a formal paper, okay. And I always get the questions, okay, about how much I want. 3 pages max, 3 to 4 pages maximum. And there's a lot of stuff in here. Make it more like a memo than a regular academic paper, okay? And that's what I'm after, and you answering these bullet points, okay? And that's pretty much all. That's what I'm after on case follow-ups. Don't overthink these. What I'm wanting you to do is hone your skills at working through a memo, writing a good memo or quick report the decision maker is going to take a look at. So you're going to have opportunities here to use minimum verbiage, use screenshots, charts, things of that nature. I would not spend any more on some of these, like the motive use selected case. Don't spend any more than a paragraph on that, okay? And the sources, okay? And you should, at this point, kind of have a good idea of how to do APA. If not, there are some resources over there for you. And you also will find a tool in Microsoft Word that shows you how to take data about a reference and put them into APA format. I'm not that big of a stickler on it. I know you'll get beaten up with it enough, so I'm more interested. Don't just give me a link. Give me a date, or if there's no date, give me a non-date, and then the author, if it's a corporate offer, that type of thing. So, but I'm really more interested in why you chose the case, and then what data you were able to find as you did the case follow-up, okay? So that's the one thing at this point you haven't encountered in terms of an assignment. So that will take care of it. Well, folks, listen, I've gone a little bit further than I wanted to, so I'm going to stop the share and then stop the recording. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate it. And I'll click stop the share, and then I'm going to stop the recording and end the meeting.